This is the full Easter egg guide for Paradox Junction on Black Ops 7 Zombies. So the first thing you need to do is unlock Pack-a-Punch, where in the past you then want to go to the yellow building and look at this bookshelf and pick up the sealant. You then want to go to the same building in the future, where if you go up these stairs here, on this table you'll be able to pick up the acid. From there, in the future, if you go inside the greenhouse, you'll be able to place the acid in the sink, where if you interact with it again, you'll be able to pick it up. From here, you then want to go back to the past, where you then want to use the acid on mannequins. You'll only be able to use acid on 3 of the mannequins per go, but if you need more acid, just travel back to the future and then you can pick up some more from the sink. Once you place acid on a mannequin, if you go back to that position in the future, what you're looking for is one of them to drop the hammer. If it's the wrong mannequin, it will just drop essence. Now, in the future, dotted around are these green spores. What you need to do is kill zombies near the spores and it will feed souls into the spore. Once full, the spore will spit out loot, where you need to then find the spore that will spit out the barrel part. Then, while still in the future, you want to look at 3 locations that have black goo. The first one is down this alleyway, the second is on top of the stairs in the green building, and then the third is on the wall on the left in the garage of the yellow building. One of these locations will have a sound ringing from it, where you then want to go to that wall in the past and blow it up. Where if you then go back to the blown up wall in the future, you'll be able to pick up the part from behind the wall. Now, whilst in the future, open up the truck in the centre, where you'll be able to melee this workbench to open it up. You will then be able to place all the parts and then build the blunder gap. Now, once you have the blunder gap, what you need to do is survive a whole wave in the future without going back to the past. The next round, if you then look in the alley or in any of the 2 gardens, you will find a zombie on fire. What you need to do is go over to that zombie and it will drop out of the fire and start chasing you. You need to keep other zombies away from this zombie because if they get close they will drain the life force from him. You need to lead this zombie to the workbench where you then need to kill it with the blunder gap. Once you have, another one will spawn the next round in one of the locations, and then again for a 3rd round. However, the 3rd zombie will turn into a mimic, which once again you'll have to kill with the blunder gap next to the workbench. From here, if you open up the truck in the past, you'll be able to open up the workbench and place the blunder gap inside. If you then go back to the future and go back to the workbench, you'll be able to pick up the upgraded Sunder gap. Now, once you have this, in one of 3 locations an RCXD controller will spawn. This will be the garden of the greenhouse, on the right of Pack-a-Punch, or on the shelves here in the garage of the yellow house. If you interact with this controller, you'll be able to control the RCXD, where you need to go up these ramps and then jump over these boxes, where in the garage you need to blow up the door. Now, whilst in the future, if you then go to the garage door on the left of Pack-a-Punch, it will now be open and there will be this body that it disintegrates and turns into chalk. Pick up the chalk, where you then want to go to the past, and then in the garden of the yellow building you want to shoot the bottom of the swing, and you then want to pick this up. Go to the future, where you want to go back to the swing set and you want to place the swing seat and then place the chalk on top. This will cause a small cutscene with the twins playing on the swing. From here, if you go to the garage of the yellow building and go to this red box, you'll be able to open it up and grab the seeds from inside. Now you have to go back to the past, where you'll be able to plant the seeds in this dirt pile on the left of Pack-a-Punch. This will then cause a new wave of zombies to spawn, where you need to kill them with the blunder gap so you can feed the seeds so they can grow. Once you've fed the seeds with enough zombies, a tree will grow, where you then need a combat axe and you need to return to the tree in the future and it will have grown. From here, you want to use the combat axe on the tree 3 times to get 3 pieces of strange firewood. You then need to go back to the past, and then in the yellow building you'll be able to place the firewood in the fire and you'll be able to light it with a Molotov. If you then go back to the future, and then at the end of the alley there will be an X on the ground. If you go on top of this X, it will start glowing. You then want to go back to the past, where if you go to the same spot, the twins will appear, where they will draw a hopscotch. Interact with this light at the end, where you now need to complete the hopscotch by going 1 all the way up to 12, but you need to avoid the squares when they turn black. If you do it wrong, just wait a while and you'll be able to do it again. Once you're at 12, you then need to go back all the way down from 12 back to 1, where once you do, a music box will appear in the middle of the hopscotch. You then need to kill zombies with the Sunder gap to feed the music box, where the music box will start moving towards the fire. Follow it around the map, feeding it souls using the blunder gap until it goes into the fire, where you'll then receive a max ammo. The next step is you need to go to the garden of the greenhouse in the future, where if you wait long enough, eventually a music teacher will spawn. You then need to get brain rot, where you need to shoot the music teacher with the brain rot. The music teacher will then go to the piano in the green building, where if you then return to the past, the music teacher will play a song. Once she has, if you go back to the future, there will be 8 blue markings dotted around the map. The dot on these markings will blink a certain amount of times. If it blinks once and then pauses, that's the first one you need to interact with, and then the second, and then the third, and so on until you hit all 8. Here are all the locations of all the markings. Once you've interacted with the last marking, if you go back to the past and look at the piano, you'll see that all the markings are above the piano. Now, luckily you don't need to know how to play a piano to do this step. There will be 8 keys available for you to play, with the first one being on the very left and the 8th being on the very right. The code you need to put in is 86756535. Once you've done this, the piano will start playing, where whilst in the future you then want to look outside of the map in the gardens. You will notice 4 zombies floating in the air, 2 in each garden. What you need to do is shoot these zombies and they will turn into orbs and go towards the centre of Nuketown. Once you've shot all of them, you'll notice that the orbs are in the centre by this X. If you then go back to this location in the past, the orbs will disappear and the twins will appear and draw a circle. A ball will then spawn in the middle of the circle. If you interact with this ball, it will jump up in the air and start bouncing up and down. Zombies will then spawn and then be lifted up into the air as the ball goes up in the air. To complete this game, you need to kill all the zombies as they're in the air before they touch the ground. Once you've completed this, a music sheet will then appear in the middle of the circle. This is similar to the music box, where you then need to feed it souls using the blunder gap, and the music sheet will work its way around the map and land on the piano.
When he was a CIA.
Now, once you've done that, you then need to look up at these speakers on the left of Pack-a-Punch. Using a charged shot of the Thundergat, you'll be able to knock off goggles from the top of the speakers. From here, you need to grab Wisp T, where you need to activate Wisp T next to the goggles outside of the map, where your Wisp will then go outside the map and collect the goggles for you, where you'll be able to pick them up. From here, you then need Depth Perception, where you then want to look in one of 3 locations. The first is on the floor upstairs in the yellow building, the second is the hand of this mannequin by the golf course, and then the third is on the second floor of the green building on the hooks. In one of those 3 locations, you will notice an outline of headphones, which you will then be able to pick up. Go back to the past, where if you come over to this toy box, you'll be able to melee it to open it, and you'll be able to place the headphones and goggles. If you then go back to the future, a ball will spawn in one of 2 locations. The first is on top of the roof outside the back of the yellow building, and the second location is on top of these crates by Pack-a-Punch. What you need to do is shoot the ball where it will start glowing, and you will then need to shoot the ball and guide it all the way to the back of the green building, where at the back of the green building an X will have spawned, and you need to get the ball on top of the X. Once the X is glowing blue, go back to the past and go to that location, and the twins will appear and start drawing boxes. A ball will then appear that you can interact with. This will start another mini game where you need to melee the ball back and forth between these 2 boxes. Once you've done that for 30 seconds, the ball will disappear and it will come back glowing yellow. This is another soul box that you need to fill. You need to follow this ball all the way around the map until it eventually goes inside the toy box. Now what you need to do is go back to the future, where on top of the green building you'll notice this clock. If you shoot the hands of the clock, you'll be able to move them, and what you need to do is move both hands so that they're at 0. Once both hands are at 0, you then need to teleport, and before you teleport you need to shoot the red hand. This will then cause this orb to spawn in the middle of the map. This orb will then float to the ground, where it will then start floating around to all the artifacts, and the twins will appear. Once it finally goes to the fireplace, it will then move on to the swing set outside the back of the yellow building. The twins will then spawn and you'll be able to start the final encounter. If you then defeat the boss fight, you'll complete the Easter egg.